It was interesting to watch your video and hear you running for U.S. Senate, and you were so young. What made you decide to run back in 2020 for U.S. Senate in Delaware?
So interestingly enough, okay, so I have a little different story than probably many people. I struggled with addiction all through my 20s. I just could not get clean, and I was hardcore drug use. I was using heroin and methamphetamine, and I I wasn't the kind of person that was supposed to happen to. Like addiction wasn't supposed to happen to people like me, but
Right.
it did.
Yeah.
And I got sick and tired. I got clean, and I got sick and tired of seeing all my friends die. It was an issue that I was passionate about. Nobody was doing anything about it. And what better way to bring attention to a national issue than to run for public office? So I based my entire Senate campaign around the issue of addressing the opioid epidemic.
And when you
Yeah.
say a person like me, what do you mean by that?
So I went to college on a full ride scholarship. Played softball and volleyball, and I was, an athlete, and I got straight A's, and I was on honor roll and dean's list, and it wasn't supposed to happen to people like me. And it did. Addiction, it doesn't discriminate, is what I mean by that.
Oh, I
And
see.
yeah, that is what I meant. I'm not like I'm like too good to be.
No, I
It's
thought
just, it
because
wasn't
you,
like I had an excuse. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I grew up in a abusive home or something like that. I grew up in a great house with Christian parents, and addiction still found me. So,
And why did you get on drugs like that to that degree? What made you do it?
so it started off with Percocets. In college we were partying and stuff like that. I tried it. Then I got a job working for a pharmaceutical company. That's when it really kicked in. I kind of learned this whole lie that there's a pill for everything. So if you have depression, there's a pill for that. If you have anxiety, there's a pill for that. If you can't sleep, now there's even a pill for addiction, if you can
Yeah.
believe that. They
Yeah.
came up with a pill for addiction
What a
to treat
mess.
addiction. Yeah, but I kind of bought into that lie that there was a pill for everything. I started taking like SSRIs and stuff like that. I wasn't happy. I wasn't whole. I sought happiness through a pill, and it started with Percocet, but it progressed and progressed and progressed. Like one Percocet was not enough. Okay, now I need two. Now I need three. Oh, heroin's 10 times cheaper. And back then when I was using, it was real heroin. Um, it wasn't fentanyl like it was now. It's
Right.
completely changed to something far more deadly, synthetic. It's horrible. But I'm not saying it's all horrible, but it was just a different time, and it just progressed. And then it was, all right, we're going to try methamphetamine to keep me awake because the heroin puts me to sleep. And then
Yeah.
it, it's one thing after another. And then you find yourself in a place where you're like, how did I get here? Like completely addicted, can't get clean. I within a matter of, it's interesting. When I was on pills, I was able to like maintain a job and that kind of thing. Within a month of starting to use IV heroin, I lost everything. I lost my apartment, I lost my car, I quit my job because I couldn't show up to work. And it was just, it cost me everything. And it's a slow fade. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it just starts, oh, I'm just gonna start using drugs, and I'm gonna like lose everything. It progressed, and it was a slow fade, and then you find yourself in this position that you never thought in a
Yeah.
million years you'd be in.
So it came up on you without you realizing how deep you had gotten into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Amazing.
remember, yeah.
What did
I
your
remember
parents
waking
think?
up one day.
Go
Huh?
ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I remember waking up one day, and my electric had shut off, and I'm like living in this trap house, and I'm looking around like, how did I get here?
You were
How
like,
did I
what
get here?
the?
Yeah, what the? No, but it was sad. And but like I said, I didn't have an excuse really. It wasn't like terrible things happened to me and I used it to cope. It started off as, just a party thing, a feel good thing. Oh, this
Right.
is going to make me feel
Yeah.
great and, my life fulfilled. And it did for a while. It was fun for a while. And then your body becomes physically dependent on it. And then you can't function without it.
What did your parents think about it?
Oh, well, of course, my parents were heartbroken. Yeah, I have great parents. And, they had actually tried to get me into multiple programs. I went to programs, I walked out of programs. I tried these 28-day detox centers. They now have like methadone programs where you can show up and get your, it's basically government issued heroin. That's what
Right.
methadone is. It's not a treatment or anything that you could even, it's just a black hole of endless government funding into
Yeah.
giving people more drugs. So I tried pretty much everything. Nothing was working. And my parents were super supportive. Like, I mean, they, of course, like, they wanted me to get clean. But of course, like, at one point, my mom was like, I got to stop giving you money. So I
Yeah.
didn't have to get clean because my mom kept giving me money. She kept paying my electric bill and keeping me afloat. So I didn't really
Right.
have to,
Yeah.
and then finally, when, that she realized, like, this, I have to stop doing this. And when she cut me off, I had to deal with the consequences of my life. And, it was I remember like that moment when I was looking around where I was in this trap house. I had lost everything. Drugs had cost me everything.
That's amazing.
And yep,
How
yep.
did you
And
finally get
I had,
off?
I'm sorry.
How did you finally get off it?
So I actually am a Teen Challenge graduate. So Teen Challenge is a Christian long-term residential program. It was founded by David Wilkerson back in, I think it was like the 1960s. It's a long-term facility. So basically, my parents take me to this place. Get this. So it's like out in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. So I can't leave. I mean, I could leave. You can leave, but
Right.
it's like I'd be like in the wilderness in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, out in the middle of nowhere. And I was there for a few days. I'm like planning my escape. I'm like, all right, I am definitely not staying here. They had us cutting wood. They had us scrubbing toilets. It was like boot camp. It was terrible. But like every single day, I would tell myself, okay, I'm going to leave tomorrow. I'm going to leave tomorrow. But while I was there, God started to work on my heart. And I started reading his word and the things he says about me. And, he started to build me, like rebuild me from the inside out. And it was a total character change. It was, I had so much pride. I didn't want to admit I had a problem.
Right.
Yeah, I can fix this. I can handle this.
Yeah.
I can quit anytime is what I told myself. But, it was like once I let that all go and listened to the things that Christ said about me and, the things that he had placed on my heart and how he sees me. And I just started to rebuild my character from the inside out. And a year later, I was still there. I didn't leave. I became quite a mountain woman. I became very good at chopping wood and scrubbing toilets by that point. But I I graduated and then I stayed and I decided to give back. And I became like a program director of Teen Challenge. I then got a job working for the Trump campaign in 2018. And it was like everything that like I had wanted, God gave to me. But I like every opportunity I could have ever wanted, God gave to me. But it was like only after I had
Yeah.
submitted to his will in my life and stopped trying to do things my way and try to fix things my way. And once I did that, it was, he just opened doors that no man can open. Like I
Absolutely.
literally had the Trump campaign calling me, asking me to come out to Iowa and help my president win his election.
That's
And back in
amazing.
in 2020, it was very cool. No, God has done amazing stuff in my life. He's a very real, tangible God.
Absolutely.
He's so real and he's so alive and he loves us very much. But what I really was sick and tired of doing, like I was watching all my friends still struggle though. I was watching them struggle. I was watching my friends die. I don't have any friends left from that era. They've all died. Overdoses or some kind of tragic accident. Some of them were killed by people in bad deals. And nobody was doing anything about it. No politician has really addressed the root issue of the opioid epidemic. It started with mass immigration. Nobody wants to admit the fact
Yeah.
that, hey, these drugs are coming across our southern border. Now it's fentanyl, which comes from China. It's the cartels in Mexico and then across the southern border. But they targeted the Rust Belt. They targeted areas that had lost all their manufacturing. I was a pharmaceutical rep. I remember seeing the marketing for Suboxone, it's a opiate replacement drug. This is going to help cure your addiction. This is going to stop everything. The marketing around pharmaceuticals it's extraordinary. When I
Yeah.
went to pharmaceutical school, they basically taught me how to manipulate doctors into making my clinical trials look like they were legitimate. Like I remember I sold a drug. It was a fibromyalgia drug, and it didn't work. It was trash. But they taught us how to sell it to the doctors, to get the doctors to write it, prescriptions for their patients of pain medication. So it's really just a very corrupt industry, the pharmaceutical industry. They were all in on it. It started with the Sackler family getting people addicted to OxyContin. And then when you pull the OxyContin off you restrict people who are physically dependent on it, they start seeking out elsewhere. So they go to the streets, buy Percocet, and then they probably fall into the same
Yeah.
path that I did. So it's just it's something that nobody was addressing. I wanted it addressed, and that's why I ran.
Right
And I
on.
actually, yeah, so I ran on federal funding for year-long residential facilities because it worked for me. And it has an 80% success rate, but it's faith-based. So I do think that I do truly believe that there is a difference between just secular rehab facilities and faith-based because it has the Jesus factor.
Right
And the
on.
Jesus factor, I mean, he is the absolute king of kings and he can break every chain. There's no chain he can't break.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I'm a big advocate of long-term residential facilities. RFK did talk about that recently, which I was really happy to see, as opposed to the 28-day facilities that they currently are funding.
Amazing.